Oh, thanks for doing this.
No, yeah, thanks to you, mate. Yeah, appreciate you coming on again.
Of course. There is
Where
a
about?
fridge behind me, which is not particularly.
It's
I'm
all good,
actually
mate.
not. I'm not actually. I'm basically my. Rat Boy. The he's like a singer from England. His
Yeah, I
band's called
remember the
Rat Boy.
name. Yeah.
So we do a lot of sort of songwriting stuff. So he's actually been there. Some girl in Universal is paying for us to have this big house in the Hollywood Hills. But I'm not there at the moment. I'm back picking up guitars because we're doing a week of sessions with her, but we haven't got any instruments. So we're like about to, yeah, we're just sort of all around East LA trying to pick up a bass guitar here and a acoustic guitar there, and it's all a bit sort of chaotic. But it does feel a bit like a kind of stoner comedy movie, just because that's what it feels like when you do stuff in LA. I feel like. Anyway, so I'm in some random house at the moment.
All right. Do you spend quite a bit of time over there, though?
Yeah, well, I was living here. I sort of, I was going to just move here. It was really like I was set on moving here, and I did 3 years pretty much full, constant full time, and then I just like I don't know, it just gets a bit like, especially with all this shit with Trump and all the ICE stuff, and it's just a bit miserable here. And I feel like at least in England, like when it's miserable, everyone just sort of acknowledges it and just go like, yeah, it's shit in it, and it helps. Whereas here, everyone is just kind of ignores all these like, huge fucking problems, and just how nightmarish and broken everything is here. So I feel like I just can't. Because also in LA is different to everywhere else because everyone's on their like first person mission of like their dreams coming true and everything, and it's just completely in the clouds and whatever. So I do love it here in short periods. So I'll probably still do like half my time here and half the time in England, just because like I have to be here for work. But I definitely feel like England is just my home, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Have you got some kind of dual citizenship, though?
Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah,
my mum's from Philadelphia, so
it's
I
pretty
actually lived
handy,
in
isn't it?
Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, it's handy, especially it makes it much easier to give up because like all my English friends who are here, they're like, they it's such a commitment. By the time they've even got here, they've spent all this money. They've like had to go and do all this visa shit and find sponsors and all and whatever. Whereas I just like was one day I was in England and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to live in LA, and then I was here a week later and I hadn't done anything. So it's way easier for me to go like, oh, actually, this is like maybe this isn't my spiritual home or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Get to pick and choose.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, since the last time we spoke, it's been about 6 years. You
Wow,
said,
fuck. Doesn't do
mad,
you know
isn't
what?
it?
The older you get, the more time just like falls away in these like giant fucking icebergs of like it will just be like a 6 year chunk. It's like it is so crazy. Also, I mean, I think COVID did make time just do different things than it used to. But yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
interrupting. Yeah.
No, so I was just going to say, like, last time we spoke, you said you were quite happy not being in a band. So, what's changed?
Oh, did I say that? I said a lot of things, haven't I? Do you know what? I was listening to the song. I did set that list of songs. I made a little playlist to listen to. It's quite it's quite a random. It sort of jumps quite wildly around. But I mean I'm saying that because I'm like, God, what have I said in the past that I'm now having to defend? But I don't know. I was happy not being in a band. Shall I tell you what happened? Is I'm doing a side project actually with Ratboy, and a couple of people over here, and we've like signed to Hellcat and do it with like, which is like a punk label in LA or in America. And I was just like, and I'm playing Hammond organ in that band, just literally playing the B3 just like Hammond, and just making those songs and like writing. I think the more K-pop that I've done so much K-pop since we spoke. Then I've been writing a lot of K-pop, which I love to do, right? But it is so the opposite of being in a band, and it's so the opposite of you. It's so like, if you write a song for your own band, you're like, I know what this song should be, therefore I will make it, and then it will be made, right? Whereas when you're pitching a K-pop song, you're like, it's just so trial and error, and like, I spent ages on this thing that I thought was perfect for this, for one of the K-pop groups, and then I'm like, they just sent back saying, sorry, this is far too Nordic, like almost telling me off, and I'm like, I don't even really know what that means.
No, that'd
Nordic.
be fun.
Right. So anyway, so I'm like, oh well, maybe it's like, maybe there is a sort of creative control thing, and whatever. And then I started making these songs again with Rat Boy, and I felt like actually like the Ordinary Boys is such a weird band, right? Because it's like, what even is it? Because it started as one thing, and I'm like, as you can see from the songs I sent, I'm just so ADHD. I mean, I'm very ADHD, just clinically, as a, like I'm medicated ADHD, right? So, but I also feel like that's made me just like sort of, I just chase all these sort of directions, and I have done. I've never really worked out what the Ordinary Boys is. Saying that like it's some, important question that everyone's wondering. Like, no, it doesn't really matter, right? But like when you go back to it 20 years later, and you're like, well, what is what does a quintessentially Ordinary Boys record sound like now? Sort of feel like I figured it out. And I feel like it is like a list of it is all the influences together, and it is just sort of quite a strange thing. And so I made a couple of songs. Anyway, then we started. We just booked a couple of shows. Booked this one in Worthing, which is where we're from. Got a horn section. It was the fucking greatest day of my life. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating that. I had such a good time. I was like, I felt so comfortable as a front man, as a performer. I felt so comfortable with what the band was. I felt like, that it's sort of an argument that I've done so many sort of weird sidestep, strange things with this band that actually like the people that are still there, and we sold out this like, I don't know, like 1,000 people in Worthing on with no advertising, like on at very last minute. It was a packed room, and I'm like, all of these people, like I feel like the people that are still standing and saying like, oh yeah, I fuck with this band, really do get it. Like maybe even more than I do, but I've sort of managed to kind of keep up with them a little bit, and I've made the record. It's like it's like almost like Gorillas adjacent, or like, and it's like it is more ska, but it's like ska in a very sort of like almost the. Or it's like a bit like the streets, and it's like all these things where I'm like, oh, that's like what we always were. I just never really managed to find it. Obviously, it's 20 years too late, but like that, and that, that will matter for sort of commercial success, but it doesn't matter in terms of the satisfaction that I'm getting from just like making the record that like I feel like just sort of makes all the rest of it make sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, you've got this single coming out, and people are asking if there's going to be an album to follow, type of thing.
Yeah, well, we're speaking to a bunch of people actually, so we have offers in, so it's like, and actually, I think we like sort of full disclosure, maybe a bit TMI, but like we've had conversations with people before the demos were made, saying, would you be interested in putting out an Ordinary Boys record? And were met unanimously with a no, thank you. Like, are you mad? Right? And then we did these demos. There's like 5 songs, 3 definite, two, one like, but the 3 that are mixed, and actually like 2 of them are mastered by this amazing, like the mastering is just like, she's a wizard. She's it's part of the whole process. She's been so good. But this once these demos were like heard, everyone's like, oh yeah, oh right, like okay, yeah, yeah, we get it. And we've had loads of offers and stuff. So like, I say loads of offers, like we've had you know, independent labels offering us like, a budget for marketing. And like, so it's not like, I'm not saying that we're, like fucking, Sony are going to sign us or whatever, but I'm saying that like within the world that we're in, we're sort of in now, this sort of like, there's a very healthy sort of Renaissance artist. What do you call? What's the term for him? Like what do you call like an old band that are back? There's a
Legacy act, is
term.
it?
Legacy, yeah. Renaissance was given it. I was being a bit too kind. Right. Legacy act. Well, legacy actually is even more. That gives it even more sort of. But yeah, so now we're like in the world of sort of legacy acts. I just feel like because I've been doing all this songwriting and because I've been like, I'm sort of, I've actually been more successful as a songwriter massively than I was in a band. But I feel like because I've sort of had to be part of that conversation the whole time, that I do feel like actually the new record, I feel like it in within the world of like legacy acts, I feel like we're in a really good position.
Yes. And then in terms of production, were you doing that yourself type of thing, or how did it work?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just doing it myself. Like, I've been producing for other people for like 20 years or something. It's like it's also fucking weird because it's like I, this is just the human fucking condition, right? But like, I don't feel old at all. I feel so. I really don't feel old enough to be like having quit my band 20 years ago. Is that right? Or basically. And I don't feel like old enough to have then had this whole other career in between. So, but here we are. But yeah, so it's like I do feel like I'm just sort of I'm like old enough to have the experience, but young enough to sort of still be like stupid enough to then sort of walk away from my healthy career and sort of invest in this. Being in a band is like I think there's a helicopter going ahead over. I don't know if you can
Yeah,
hear
I'll be
that,
all right, mate. Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like I don't know. I like there's something about being in a band where it's like being in a sort of unhealthy, violent relationship where you're just like whatever you want, dear, to your band. You just can't help but be like that with your band, and like the hours and the money and the like, just despite having all these other sort of easier options in life and career wise, I feel like it's just something about the band where it's just sort of this nagging thing where you're like, oh, go on then. And I've really enjoyed it. Honestly, it was the Worthing show was just like such a memorable night. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and you're gonna be playing like a few festivals and stuff. Is that right? Is that the
Yeah,
plan?
we're playing with Madness a few times, which is really good. That'll be great. And just the sort of, it's still very early days in us sort of being back. And so we're just doing, the sort of festivals that sort of come to us and offer them just doing bits and pieces. And then, I mean, the plan is to tour next year and then to do the album and then do all the proper festivals next, sometime next year. And then I don't. It's also like who knows? Like the most likely event is like nothing really will happen, and then I'll just sort of like it'll be another little weird time I did the Ordinary Boys for 6 months. But hopefully, I really believe that like that we're already too deep in for that. We did the record in 2015, so sort of it was so low effort. We didn't have a manager. We didn't have like we just put it out ourselves. We like just sort of wrote the songs like the mornings we recorded them sort of thing. It was such a sort of like we just sort of let it happen around us without really paying attention. But and I do think that record's quite good. I still sort of stand by that. I think it has a couple of really good songs on it. And it was great doing stuff with Louis from Spectrals. That was like a real treat. But I feel like now we've got a manager, we've got like label, we're putting the first single, Peer Pressure, we're putting out on Scruff of the Neck, which is like they've done like a bunch of big records in like Cast and stuff, and we're actually playing with Cast as well. Where there's a festival like we're playing just before them, which will be amazing. And it's also like, I mean, even speaking to you and like you know more than me, but there is this quite healthy community of like bands that are back. Like I feel like there's a sort of like it's quite. I don't want to like miss out on that. I don't want to like it's the people that we sort of came up with, the Cribs and us, obviously still going, and Kaiser Chiefs are doing their thing, and like just sort of like it just seems like wasted fun to not be doing it, I think.
Yeah, especially when you see when the likes of the Kooks are playing the biggest gigs ever, apparently.
Yeah, well, they're huge in America.
Oh, really?
Yes, we used to have the same manager as them, and they're fucking huge everywhere. We used to have the same manager as them, and they he'd found them like when he was still we were just sort of like starting to do stuff, and he was like he would play them in the car and be like, "What do you think of this?" And we were just like, "Oh yeah, it's like obviously very good." But I think that the unfortunate thing is like for my band is we never really had that many like songs. We had like a good vibe, and we had like obviously Boys Will Be Boys, but I didn't really realize at the time the importance of like writing those big songs. I was just sort of like was showing up. I think the bands like the difference between like a Kooks who are worldwide massive and like the other ones is that Kooks just they have songs. They have like real proper songs that you can play. You put on in a wedding and everyone will dance, and everyone knows them. It's like that sort of Killers thing of just like they're sort of for everyone. So no, yeah, definitely like they're also they're like lifers, right? They live and breathe that the sort of rock and roll. It's like no, lots of respect to them.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I was talking to Richard Archer of Hardfire about an interview he did with Luke Pritchard of the Kooks, and they talked about NME and kind of the fickle nature of it, which didn't go down well with former editor Conor McNicholas. But I realised we didn't talk much about NME last time. Like, what was your relationship like with them?
I mean, they put me on I can't remember if I was in the front, but it was the call list, the enemy call list. I was in that before I think that was my first mention in the enemy, was being in the call list, which is a bit of a nail in the coffin, I feel like, and maybe sort of lent me into an area of like maybe things other than the music being like important. But yeah, I remember that. I remember that photo shoot so clearly that it was. I mean, it was the first time I'd done anything. I was like, I'd done my band playing around and doing nothing, and then suddenly I was like, "Oh, you're in the enemy call list. They want to do a photo shoot." And I went in, and it was me, Alex from Franz Ferdinand, and the Queens of Noise,
Oh, yeah.
and they were just. It was just like everyone was so nice. It was like very different to what you kind of expect. Like people, just very normal, nice people. And like the photo shoot was great. The journalists were all great. There was a few kind of journalists at the time that were sort of like that were the journalists at the Enemy were basically like much more rock and roll and like hard partying than any of the bands that in my experience. But they were just they were really good to us, and actually like they wrote about us after Big Brother as well. That puts on the cover after Big Brother, which is like they could have just sort of like turned their nose up or whatever. But and Connor was always great. Yeah, I they were you sort of look at it at the time. You were like it was like, oh fuck, they're so powerful, and that's like it felt very, it felt like this huge force that you couldn't, you could do nothing to sway. It was just gonna do what it wanted, and it was out of your control, right? And sometimes that was in your favor, and sometimes it wasn't. But I'm almost like inclined to think that it's sort of better to have these tastemakers that decide a little bit what they want to write about. Whereas the reality we exist in now, which is like, on in theory, it's great that it's like should be like a meritocracy of what connects is the thing that is pushed. But evidently, from the music that people do end up, the things that do sort of rise to the top of TikTok or whatever. Maybe sometimes it is that it is quite nice to have journalists you respect get sort of tell you something that they think is more deserving of sort of public attention. I don't know. Maybe that's a hugely controversial statement. I don't know, but like I really miss the having like a few journalists that you would respect and be sort of feel aligned with, telling you what you should be sort of paying attention to, rather than it's like I think now labels still do have some sway, publishers, and I think and also whatever happens on TikTok and whatever sort of rises to the top that way. I think the only thing that now that's missing is journalism. That doesn't feel like it's like as important. I guess it is in it is in like Phil. People go to Rotten Tomatoes and they see what the critic score is for a film, but no one's going to Metacritic because no one's going to Metacritic and saying like what's the top scored album. It's just not culturally sort of landed in that way. Whereas NME was a really good way of just going like, that it would gently sort of move in certain directions and like at the same time they also called us chav punk. So there's that as well. It was us and like, I don't know, Dead 60s and maybe Hardfire was chav punk as well at one point. Hardfire were a great band actually. They were like, I remember seeing them, we're playing with them a couple of times, and they just felt so like the next thing at the time. It felt like they were doing what we wanted to do, but doing it in a way that was like chart music, like pop music, and that was just the coolest thing. I think that's sort of what I was kind of attempting to do with the third album. I just didn't really know how to do it, but I remember just thinking, wow, they've managed to like bridge the gap. They've sort of done what we were trying to do with the sort of what enemy would call chav punk, but also bring in just a little bit of like Calvin Harris and the streets and like the stuff that has actually felt like it was part of the sort of landscape of music at the time, right? It was like what a smart thing and what a cool thing to do, and it connected so well. They were a great band, and they're back, aren't they? They're doing stuff.
Yeah, yeah, they've got a new album coming out and they're
Oh,
playing
have they?
festivals and all that. Yeah,
Oh, good on them. Oh, it's fun, isn't it? I'm so glad that I'm sort of part of the journey again. Part of the gang, rather than like just having to sort of watch it from afar.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's all right, mate. Well, as you mentioned, you've sent some songs across.
Yeah, I
Uh,
was listening. It's a very random assortment, I'm afraid. I was like, listen, I was like, we were driving here on the way, and I was gonna put this on and just sort of like see what I've got myself into, and it's just completely like it's sort of one of every genre. But
no, it's good for me. Definitely mix it up.
oh, good.
Quite a few songs. Well, I think maybe all. Well, no, yeah, majority of them haven't been on before. So,
Oh,
but
that's
we'll
good.
kick off with the first one. MIA. Why this? Why this song?
Oh, I mean, that was just like. mind melting at the time. Like that was it was like just unlike anything you'd ever heard. And I think it really like I think that sent me and definitely much more like affected me as a sort of songwriter and a producer in terms of like just like the coolest shit you've ever heard. It was so like different and like it was something that we would just play a lot in the like when we were touring in the van and stuff and just like it's music that when when that came out you put that on you just feel so fucking cool for just having it on in the background. You know what I mean? And I've really loved everything she's done since. I really loved that dubstep record she did. That was like, it's like no one really fucks with that one anymore. But it's actually it really holds up.
Okay, cool. Let's play the song then. Here's MIA with Galang. And then yeah, I was talking about the next one, the next artist with Richard Archer from Hardfire, because apparently he was between Hardfire and Anthony and the Johnsons for the Mercury Prize back in the day.
I
And
was wondering, do you know what I was thinking when you said I was talking to Hardfire about it? I was thinking, oh, you must have skipped Anthony and the Johnsons then, and
no,
you must have had it
apparently
in a different order.
they found out that someone at the Mercury Prize on the panel said, "Oh, we just can't give this to Hardfire. It's going to have to be Anthony and the Johnsons or something." Came down to one vote
Oh,
or something. I don't know.
interesting. Well, it was. I mean, I think all of my songs that I've chosen are like mostly things that just seem to like come at a time when I've never even like considered music that sounded like this. And it's just it's actually like a real family record for my family. Like when if me and my sister are down in France where my mum lives, we'll sort of get this record out if we've had sort of a few boxes of box wine. But it was just such a beautiful record and just such a beautiful voice. And I think they like sang in the choir in Chichester or something. I thought there's some kind of Chichester connection. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful record and still one of my like the album is just one of my favorite albums of all time. Like very special record.
Okay, nice one. Let's play the song then. Here's Anthony and the Johnsons with "You Are My Sister." Yeah, I was looking at just going back to NME again. I was looking at videos from the NME Awards 20 years ago, and there's one of you there. But like, how
Uh-oh.
would you get on it? How would you get on at events like that? Where I don't know. Did you mix well with other bands type thing?
Oh no, I fucking hated everyone. I hated everyone. I was so antisocial back then. If I hadn't gone on tour with you, like the Cribs and Kaiser Chiefs, I was tight with. But I would just like. But I remember that NME Awards. So is that the one? There's two NME Awards. There's one when I got back from straight off the flight from Japan, and I just looked like shit. I mean, I looked like absolutely dead. This is must be post 2006, and I've got like some like weird patterned sort of tie on or something,
Silky
and
suit going on, yeah.
yeah, some kind of thing like that. And then and I just look like I've been like smoking crack for a week, but I'd just been on the flight to Japan from Japan, and they put a fucking poster of me in the NME from that night, like literally a big fold out, like honestly, like a full size poster of me just looking like absolute shit. But the time must have told this story about the first time I went to the Enemy Awards
Don't think so.
when so I went there. I hadn't not signed, not anything, or maybe we just got signed, but we hadn't released anything. And the Libertines played, and Pete was reading out of a book on the drum riser during the guitar solo, and I was like, oh, fucking what a pretend, just like what was that? Come on, mate. Although actually now in retrospect, I actually think it's quite cool and funny. But like at the time, I was just like, oh, that's so pretentious, man. Anyway, I went with my girlfriend at the time. We travelled back to Brighton on the train, and I was going fucking Libertines. The guy's so pretentious. What a dickhead. And then I hear from like the other. It was that old carriages where there was sort of two, one here and one sort of staggered. And I hear um, excuse me, yeah, that's my band. I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm Carl. That's you're talking about my band. And I actually, I was like, yeah, I thought you guys were amazing, but I did think reading the book during the guitar solo was a little bit performative. And anyway, I was like, well, I'm in a band called the Ordinary Boys, and I was like, I had a cassette tape in my pocket, so I gave it to him, and then we toured with him. They literally took us on tour. It was like the Cribs, us, and them.
Oh,
Like
amazing.
from that, so that was my awards ceremony. But yeah, I was never like I'm good friends with Donny Tourette out here
Oh, yeah.
because he works in TV, so he lives in LA. And he was exactly the opposite, where he would be like talking to everyone, like, and I only know this from his experiences of us talking about the same events that we'd gone to, and I would sort of, stand at the back and kind of like, see Kelly Osbourne in the distance and just be like, oh, Kelly Osbourne. Whereas he told me about the same night where he ended up going to a hotel with Kelly Osbourne and I don't know, whatever. So I never was. I think the Ordinary Boys. We always felt very sort of separate from everyone. I don't know why. I think maybe we were part. We were more like part of like a hardcore scene or like the sort of punk scene in Brighton. So that was always sort of our scene. And then when we got successful or like did went to London and sold out and whatever, then I think we were so sort of rejected by that scene, which now I've sort of made peace with all those people, and like some of them are in our horn section now. We have like a full horn section now when we play, which is so sick. But so we've all sort of, time has made that seem like a ridiculous thing for us to fall out for that reason. But I yeah, I think because of that we like never felt. We always felt like kind of like we just sort of felt like outsiders a little bit. I'm sure that just explains sort of a lot of the sort of story of the band. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
So
a lot of
yeah,
bands did that, but yeah.
yeah, 100%. And actually, we did. Then like Kasabian. We ended up being really like we were really tight with them on one of the Japanese tours, and like once like you just sort of sometimes with bands you sort of assume that everyone's going to be like not nice, and then actually everyone's really nice and normal, and you just think they're going to be like, even the one, sort of especially the ones that put on this like, this. Should I tell you who's always slagging me off is Johnny Borrell.
All right.
He said I destroyed indie or something. I'm like amazing to give me that much sort of kudos, but anyway, and he said some other bullshit about me. I don't know, whatever. But then my my friend, my one of my like one of my best friends in England is friends with their mums are friends, and apparently he's like the sweetest guy. And I'm like, well, why is he trying to pretend he's like mean and being horrible to me? But
Yeah, last time you were on, you said you went to chat to them at a festival or something, and they weren't having it or something.
oh yeah, there you go. Not me with a chip on my shoulder about Johnny Burrell. I don't know, because I'm fucking nice, he's nice. So why can't we just be nice together? But I don't know. Or maybe I'm sure we'll play a festival again. I don't know. I'll get him a box of Quality Street or whatever.
Yeah, just talk to Andy. He's the nice one anyway. The
Okay, yeah,
drummer.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. He's the one he played for Ricky Gervais, right? Is that
Yeah,
true?
yeah. He's a
Yeah, yeah.
songwriter as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He seems cool. All right, well that's good. I'll go straight for Andy.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting about Donny though, because you must have a lot of relatable experience. Yeah.
Well, this is I was just we follow each other on well we had followed each other on Instagram. We like I don't know we started following each other 5 years ago or something. Less than that, it's 3 years ago because he's the reason I moved to LA. But I just said hello. We have very parallel lives. Let's go for coffee. And we did, and we just instantly hit it off. And he was like, "I'm moving to LA," and I was like, "Oh, I should do that." And then I just did. But no, I feel like I've got quite a lot of friends from just like like I'm really. But do you know the cartoonist Chris Simpson's artist?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he's like ended up being one of my like best friends in the world.
Right.
I actually did the music for his cartoon that he's just released a cartoon. I did the music for it. Anyway, he's just like we've worked on another project together. But anyway, he followed me on Twitter years ago, and I was like, and I just said, "Oh, it's cool that you follow me on Twitter." And we just started chatting, and he said, "Come and visit me in Scotland, where I live." And I was like, "All right," and I did. And this is like 10, 15 years ago, and he's been my best friend, since then. Um, I've made a lot of my friends just from like questioning people as to why they follow me on on Twitter. But yeah,
Yes. Well, linking that back into the Cribs then, because I think I heard Ryan say that you used to knock around with each other in Brighton back in the day. Is that right?
yeah, he dated my sister for quite a while actually. But they supported us for probably like a year straight, like every gig. Did a lot of stuff together, and I sort of I hadn't talked to him for a while because I've been over in LA, and then he messaged me. He was like, "Oh, I've been messaging you for ages. I've got all these old numbers." Another number, but I had another number, but and he's like, "Oh, finally got your number." I was like, "Oh God, what's up?" And he's just like, "I just wanted to let you know that I've been listening to Over the Counter Culture and it's fucking ace." And I was like, I was so glad he did because they're just like they're just such a perfect band for what they do and what they are. They're like they they're proper lifers. Like they're like I they when we were I should write a fucking like book based on their like they're like the stories they would come back with. Like I mean, I don't want to share their stories actually without their consent, but we would have a gig where Manchester, and then we'd have a gig the next day in London. We'd get in the bus, go sleep, wake up, and do the gig, and I'd be like, oh, we check, they'd be like, oh yeah, I've been like, I had to sleep in Soho on the street because I've, like whatever. They were always just like, and they're just rock and roll lifers, and actually like there's something really magical about you know, committing your life to rock and roll or I feel like I've done that, but like also, K-pop isn't necessarily rock and roll, but like, I've done that as well, committed my life to music, right? And you do it both to the benefit and to the detriment of your life because like a life completely beholden to the financial insecurity that music sort of guarantees pretty much or the ups and downs of that, but also like you basically never work in your life, but also like when you do, it's like almost harder in a weird way because it can be so fucking weird and hot. So, and there are people where I just like you are rock and roll is just like in your veins, and like that's fucking cool. And the songs, like, especially that first album, the songs, and especially Another Number, it's just like it's so. When you're a kid, maybe pre-10, and you listen to music, and it's so like visual. You listen to Eleanor Rigby, and you're like, yes, I see this woman, Eleanor, in picking up in the church. Your child brain takes lyrics and just "Strange Little Girl" by Stranglers would always. I was like, oh, I fancy her, age 9. Do you know what I mean? I was like, but I feel like Another Number and the Cribs, they do that. They still do that to me. Like I find it very like visual lyrically. They're just a sort of weirdly magical band. Sort of band where I could have believed that they sort of like sold their soul to the devil to make those records. Honestly, they're just that perfect.
Yeah, I think they've been leaning into the songwriting a bit as well. I think a song on their latest album was originally going to be for Louis of One Direction or something.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah. So it's all coming a bit full circle, I guess.
Yeah, how funny. I should hit them up about doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And then on to the next one. Another iconic artist of the era, The Streets.
I mean, what can you even say? It's like brain melting again. Just like when this came out, and you're like, I don't know. I always I mean, I do a bit of it on some of the new stuff. I do a bit of sort of more spoken kind of stuff, but it's just what I always found funny when the Streets first came out is there was such a sort of highbrow discourse around it where I just remember seeing I remember an interview with some old geezer poet on Jules Holland, just some old grey sort of like traditional poet going on there talking about the streets and how it was like the poetry of, and it fucking is, right? But it also is, it's so accidental. It's so just randomly, it just happens to be, it's so uncontrived, I feel like, that it's just makes it sort of again like just magical, like it just feels like lightning in a bottle, like it also like because it is so sort of honest and and sort of unpretentious. It's so easy to sort of relate to it, or to kind of want to sort of wear it as a sort of identity in the way that a lot music. Maybe you could even argue that all music is just something that you use to sort of to sort of define yourself. And I feel like when the Streets came out, I was a bit like, oh yeah, I'm this music. Do you know what I mean? Not, obviously the Ordinary Boys is one thing, but like I'm like, oh, this is me here, right? Which again is like, not to bring it back to myself, but which is why I feel like actually that the influence of those first two Streets records is like sort of quite big on some of these Ordinary Boys songs, because that is the music that like I did listen to at the time, just sort of obsessively. We covered one of them for I think for Jules Holland. I can't think which one. I've just suddenly remembered that. When
Try and
maybe
Google
what?
it.
Yeah, yeah. I think when you wasn't famous or whatever it's called. What's that? Was that one?
All right.
We also played with them. We played with them in Brixton.
But that was amazing. Yeah. What was that? What
Yeah,
was
it
that
was
vibe? A bit
just
different.
honestly not like, maybe now it would be weird, but like at the time it was like, I think if not like the Ordinary Boys, I think the same people at the time that were into the Streets were sort of into my whatever me as a sort of thing. I feel like maybe it was like, I sort of feel like in some ways we were sort of closer to that than in sort of some sense of spirit than we were to some of the indie bands that we were like more in the same scene as. Um, don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. I mean, last time you said you didn't really rate that scene at all back in the day.
No, I really didn't. I mean, I just maybe it was a part of me being just like I hate everyone because I'm in a band, but I actually listened to Libertines recently, and like obviously they're just fucking brilliant, and lyrically they're amazing. But I never I was always sort of like slightly looking elsewhere. I don't think I didn't want to. I just felt like being sort of self-referential of the scene was not a productive thing to be anyway, really, because I just thought if we just went off and did a completely our own thing, then maybe that would be more interesting. I mean, maybe it was more interesting, probably, yeah. But don't know. Yeah, they weren't really like, I love the first Strokes album. That doesn't really count, does it? But No, there wasn't that many indie records of that decade that really like that I listened to.
No, fair enough, yeah. All right, well, I don't know if you played the streets yet, but here they are with Fit But You Know It. Then the next song is probably my favourite that you sent across in terms of songs that I'm not really familiar with. Health,
Oh
USA
my God,
Boys.
what a banger! I keep saying, yeah. Every time I'm talking about a song, I'm like, the first thing that comes in is brain melting. But this is just like, this was, it was such a sort of, it's like punk, but with synths in a way. It's like so sort of playful and like fun. I love this band. They're great. And that was sort of part of a scene that kind of happened like towards the end of Ordinary Boys stuff, and it was kind of it's sort of the scene that I was or the music that I was listening to when I then because when the Ordinary Boys broke up, I just went straight to Philadelphia. I lived there for like a few years, and I just sort of got into like going and seeing all these sorts of bands and like it's like a really good art scene out there and just really good time of my life, really. Just a very memorable, sort of very formative period, which is funny because my formative period sort of happened after all the, going on Big Brother and being famous, which is sort of slightly annoying way around. But yeah, I love this band. I love that. I just love how sort of free and sort of punk it is.
Yeah, so let's play it then. Here's Health with USA Boys. Yeah, it's interesting about the formative stuff. I always think that about people like Alex Turner. Like, they didn't really have a chance to have those formative years without being massively famous. It must just be a bit
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah, it's true. Like you see early pictures of him, and he looks like just a student, in student halls.
Yeah. Like, it's no wonder he like goes through these different characters. I don't know. Maybe it helps him deal with that a bit more.
Well, I just think like who fucking stays the same throughout their life?
Hmm.
No one. And actually, like it's the fact that saying that I've sort of I've decided what the sort of Ordinary Boys sound and all that stuff is. Like, yes, it is it is obviously very much like informed by over the counter culture, but it's like everything that sort of happened on the way. But also that's for now. Like I just change my mind about stuff so easily, or I get really into things and then like never think about them again. So and I think most people are like that. I think most people, if you show them a picture of them in 2003, would be like, oh God. And that's when that's when I was doing my first album, which is like the thing that I'm going out and playing now. So it's like, and I think, you can try and remain the same for the sake of a band or whatever. You can, but I don't think that's a very healthy thing to do just for your own, the journey of your own life, which is like much more important to me, obviously, than the journey of the Ordinary Boys. But I think both of those things can inform each other. And I also think for a long time I was like, I didn't want to. So I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm Preston from the Ordinary Boys. That's like who I am when I do anything. But actually, like it is kind of is who I am, and actually, like whether I like it or not, it has really defined me because like I've and better be defined by being in your band than some people that are defined by I'm a car salesman and that's defines you. You're defined by your career. It's like you can't help it. That's just the unfortunate it's just capitalist nightmare we live in. But like so now I'm sort of wearing that a bit more proudly, and like I'm like, yeah, there are a bit of the sort of awkward 20-year-old that made that first album within me, but also like I understand which bits are like useful to me now, and what. So yeah, I think it's like I say my formative years, which happened like when I was what 25 or whatever. But I've also had formative years this last few years, like here in LA. It's like I'm completely different to what it was like before I moved here. So you can be, you're never done, I think, as a human, right? As very heady stuff, but like, that you could always, something could happen to you tomorrow and it will completely change everything about your past. And that's one of the very cool things about life, I think. Which is just another thing to say is why I'm not like gonna have like a mod haircut and sort of, sing about shopping like I did on the first album.
No, it's interesting. Like last time, I think it's admirable. Like you said, you weren't afraid to alienate your audience, which is pretty bold for a young musician who's, got an audience to build on or whatever.
Well, it is, who cares, right? Like it's more important to do, it's more important to grow and to find, maybe the journey of the Ordinary Boys with the three albums led me into being able to be a songwriter, which has been very, that's been a great gift in my life, and a producer. And so maybe it's all part of the, maybe that journey is me as a person, right? And like, and people can enjoy the artwork. Maybe there's a bits of some of this other stuff that they don't like. That's fine. But actually, I feel like even people who, and actually, there's this guy Britt Colt, who's this
Yeah, yeah.
Irish guy, and he is such a champion of like 2000s indie. And he did this post yesterday or day before yesterday or something, where he was just sort of saying about we had peer pressure coming out, and he wrote this long thing about me, and I was just like I'd never felt more seen in my life, right? And I, because it was like he really understood like why I did all these things that I did, which are like, there are people out there that will just be like, I can't believe you walked off the TV show program dead to me or whatever. All right, whatever, fine. If that's what you want to think, you know, fuck off. But like, there are also people that hate the third album. Fine, whatever. Like, I didn't make it for everyone on earth to enjoy. But like the people that really like it now, I'm like, oh, you fucking get it. Like you get it. Like I don't think I even got it when I made it. And also with that third album, like I had to fucking do it all. I didn't have any help. I was there. It was just like, oh, you have to have an album out now. It has to be more commercially viable than an Ordinary Boys record, and you have to do it in 3 weeks and whatever. And I fucking did it, and there was five top 10 singles or whatever there fucking was on that album. So like, I'm really proud of it. And anyway, here reading that thing from Britcult made me feel very proud of like all the insane shit that I've done. And when I said if I said I didn't want to do the band again, maybe it was from some sort of like PTSD from all that. But now seeing the feedback and seeing the people at the shows and stuff, I'm like, oh, I want to do some more like insane shit. Let me alienate some more people.
Okay, well, halfway through the song, so we'll go to questions that we got in.
Cool.
Um, we got to Instagram first. Sustainable golfer. The best song you've written for someone else? Question mark.
Well, I would say "Live Forever" by Liam Payne because I fucking fell off a balcony and I broke almost every bone in my body. Basically, I was in a wheelchair for 6 months because I was did too many drugs and fell off a balcony. And then I got sober for a bit. I mean, I'm not sober now, but I got sober for a bit. I'm not sober in a kind of problematic way. I'm just sort of worked through it, right? But I wrote a song about it, about getting sober so that I wouldn't fall off balconies and risk dying and whatever. Liam Payne cut it. We had a big talk about me and him. I had a friendship with him, and I wrote a song basically saying like I fell off this balcony, and now I'm sober and whatever, and he really resonated with it. And then he fucking fell off a balcony and died when he was fucked up. So it's like to me that's no other song. Oh, another actual song, another song I do really like, just a random one, is "It Really Me You're Missing" by Nina Nesbitt, which is just I think probably the best song I've ever written. It's like a bunch of years old now, but I just think that's a really good song. So that's my answer.
Yes. Juan Fox said, interviewed Preston for my uni magazine in 2005. Does he still think Moby is a wanker?
Even more so, I think he's a fucking idiot. That it's funny because I was having a conversation about Lola by the Kinks recently. Did you see all this shit?
Yeah, yeah.
What a fucking idiot! What a fucking like. Yes, yeah. The answer is, but I won't go off too much. But you know, Moby, someone whose like whole career is taking records from like you know these gospel records from these and putting shit drums on it. It's just anyway. No, I really really hate him more than ever. I've been reading actually after all this. You know, Lola is such a it's to not understand how progressive Lola is for you know trans rights didn't exist in the way that it did right in when the Kinks wrote Lola. So in terms of existing in the space that it did, it was hugely like brave and bold and progressive. So to not be able to understand that and then to try and like beef with the Kinks when you're fucking Moby is just so embarrassing. So yeah, I fucking hate Moby.
Craig Cowan89 says, does Preston recall me storming the stage in Dunfermline to do the Ranking Junior verse on Boys Will Be Boys?
Um, Maybe I do. Yeah, I feel like I actually do. Yes, I do remember that. I do. No more, no further comments, but I do remember.
Well, did he get people up to sing it, or was it just like he
No,
decided?
sometimes people just would do it. That was the
Right.
thing. People used to do that every now and again. Oh, it's making me even just thinking about it. It's making me so excited for all these gigs and touring and stuff. I'm just like feel very just feel very blessed to be able to go out and do it again after all this time. But yeah.
Nick Appleyard talks about your gig at Adelphi in Hull. Says,
Oh God.
my first ever gig. I think he broke his foot during the gig.
Yeah, that was bad. That Adelphi was always a bit of a. If you mention Adelphi to Chuck, my drummer, he that will just ruin his day. He hates that venue. The microphones there smell so fucking unusual, and but I remember playing there. We played there in first time. I don't know 2004 or whatever, and people were queue. There was as many people outside as inside. Just like it was absolutely insane. So I always was like, I was like, oh, we've got to play the Delphi again. Like we love that venue, but then you sort of turns out you can't recreate that, and when you try, you just all you're left with is the stinky mics and the toilet, which is the dressing room. It's a shithole.
How did you break your foot?
Just doing a stupid jump.
Um,
I used to get so carried away with my jumps. I actually broke a guitar strap in Worthing on this last gig, which is like one of the big Fender straps. It just snapped in two, the leather, because I jumped off the bass drum. But I remember being on crutches once because I jumped off the bass drum. I just used to not really think about whether it was like, when you play live, you do just get in that sort of, I don't know, sort of possessed by a bit of a demon. And sometimes I've had a few stage injuries that I feel like it's still sort of affecting me now a little bit. But, that's part of the fun, isn't it, really?
and talking about people getting on stage, I don't think I really talked about how Phil Jupiter ended up on stage with Glastonbury. What was the story with that?
he was just, like he's such a big Scar guy, and I think he can't remember how he got in touch, but we were just friends. I don't know, like if you me now being probably the age he was when he came on stage, maybe he was probably even younger, but and now thinking about how I feel about younger bands, like I totally get why people, a lot of older Paul Weller, Billy Bragg, like people would just reach out at the time when we very first coming out. And actually, you know, I think the second album is actually the anomaly in the Ordinary Boys catalog. And I think actually what this first album suggests, I can understand why the lyrical sort of stuff. I can understand why people were wanting to sort of co-sign it a little bit more. And so I think he just was just like, oh, young ska band, like maybe he came and saw us live. I think he'd come and seen us live actually at the Electric Ballroom when Terry Hall came on stage with us. And Suggs sung with us as well. Like we had a lot of sort of like the old heads were really into the Ordinary Boys because a lot of the first album was just like 70s punk, really. Like we say it, sort of think of it as like indie, but sort of yeah, bit of a bit. It's like 70s punk with Morrissey singing. That's what I always think.
Well, it says, to be fair. Um, Canon 14 Aaron just says, when's the UK tour?
Maybe November, but for me, I'd rather push it further. When would they like the tour? Go on my Instagram and say when is a good time for you to come out. Because I want to be in the biggest venues as possible now. Because we've done the little ones and we've done coming back. And actually, the Worthing venue was in a big venue, and we had horns and we had a fucking show, and it was like I think the older you get, the more you're like, I actually just want to be like an entertainer. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, so I think I've got a lovely new orange custom 50, like a hand wired. Oh, so I've got really like I want to be able to turn my amp really loud because it's otherwise what I spent all that money on and like it's funny as well. I'm at the age now where if I wasn't in a band, I would probably like be buying a Strat to sort of put on my wall and annoy my wife if I had one. But so I'm kind of feeling that like midlife crisis itch to just like get a valve amp and like and get another guitar and like. But I get to do that and I get to do it and then like claim the tax back because I'm doing a fucking gig. So it's like, it is really good. So yeah, I guess the answer is I kind of want to try and get I would like to hold off on the tour until it feels like we can be in sort of 1,000 cap venues. So maybe realistically this time next year, maybe.
Kitty Maggie says, please ask him to release his solo album for his fans and reissue the Ordinary Boys albums on vinyl. Prayer emoji.
We're doing the Ordinary Boys albums on vinyl. Actually, all the rights revert to me in 2029. So I don't know what that means. That means I can just do whatever I want with it. So, or I say revert to me, revert to us. But so yeah, definitely gonna do vinyl. I do have the solo record somewhere. I listened to it through it like I mean probably like 10 years ago, realistically now, but it's good still. So I don't know. I need to really locate it. I would need to get it mastered somehow. Maybe I can just do that on Lando or something. So yeah, all right, I'm on it. Noted.
Joe Glaive, do you plan on playing any album tracks off the third album live this year?
No, probably not. We've got too many other songs, and it's like I think that album's basically that record I love, but it should have just not been called The Ordinary Boys. It should have been called something else because it was me and Louis. It's just sort of such a different sound for us. But I love Four Letter Word. I think it's a really good song, and I love Disposable Anthem. Maybe we would play Disposable Anthem off it. And I do love Awkward. I think that was a good song. I love the video that we did for it.
Noise Merchants. How come Will has not joined any of the reunions over the years?
He doesn't even play guitar anymore. He's got a normal job. He works in an office. So
Fair enough.
yeah. But actually, the guitarist we've got now is from I met him at university when I was like a teenager, and he's just been my friend for a million years. And he was in a band called Young Soul Rebels, who were sort of around at the same time as us. He was the singer in that band.
Revolve Greenock says, "What's their booking agent's email?" Guess they can find it out
Uh,
somewhere.
my Danny's email, my manager's email is Danny at I can't remember futuremusic.com or something like that,
Ah,
and he'll
okay.
know. Um,
And then the Durbear. Are there any songs that he's written for other people that he'd wish he'd say for Ordinary Boys?
yeah, well, actually, I wrote a song with Ratboy for his album. It's funny, he's just walked in the room and he's over there, but that he's not using that I wished was an Ordinary Boys song, but actually we're going to do it as an Ordinary Boys song now. So, but in terms of other, I mean, Heart Skips a Beat for Ollie Murs was going to be a Preston solo record at one point. So, but I don't wish that because it wouldn't have been a number one. So I don't, no, I don't, not really. I don't think so. No, I think Ordinary Boys is such a, and actually I've been trying to do some Ordinary Boys writing over here in America, and no one really gets the sort of dryness of the lyric. It's really hard to like convey that. So I do feel like there's something sort of I have to sort of sit down and write an Ordinary Boys song if I'm writing an Ordinary Boys song.
And then got one from Craig McGowan Music. How did he get those guitar tones on the first album? Fantastic sounding album.
That was my 74 custom telly, which has the humbucker on the neck. Oh, lovely guitar. And just through a blues breaker or two blues breakers, loud and no pedals, no distortion pedal or anything. I always think that the just using. I mean, this orange amp I've got now, like it's one channel, but it's so like this is so boring for 99% of people,
That's
but
interesting.
it's so dynamic to play that you don't need a clean and a dirty channel. You just play softer and it is a completely different tone. And so I do think like with guitar tones, just like if you can record loud and avoid using a for British rock music, which is like where I don't whether whatever the genre, chav punk, ska, indie, whatever we are, like ultimately I like just I want to be like just a British rock band in terms of sound, especially guitar sound. And I think you just get that from those like old British valve amps, like singing and all the harmonic like strangeness that those things have, all these weird harmonic artifacts and stuff. So yeah, loud and using like a valve as your drive that's in the amp, making me excited to record. Even saying that's like even saying that I love guitar sounds. I love valve amps. In fact, me and Ratboy were watching a video about the history of Marshall. What amp was it? Not the Plexi, the other one, JMC, whatever. JCM, sorry, the whatever it is. Anyway, we sat there, we just thinking, you know, like his wife and my girlfriend back in London, thinking like, oh, I bet they're in a Airbnb in the Hollywood Hills. I bet they're like up to no good. And we were just sitting there watching this really dry YouTuber talk about the history of this amp and all the different valves and where they came from and stuff. But yeah, I think like I'm the older I get, the more I think like actually like guitars, obviously beautiful, important, great, but actually the amp is really like where you can get just like a really unique tone and sound and something that can really define a band. I think that really the guitar tones are really good on that first record. That's the Blues Breaker.
That's interesting. Like I've noticed recently that like likes of Libertines just don't use any pedals whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I love a pedal. I love a tremolo pedal, which is such a like. And actually, I've still not found. There's that Strymon Flint, which is I think it's like it's a reverb and a tremolo, but apparently the tremolo is really good on that. I haven't got one of them, but that's on my list. But I've just been gone through all these tremolos and like for a pedal that literally all it does is turn the volume up and down. It's so hard to find one that I'm like really in love with. So, but there's there's pedal and like a chorus and whatever things that like don't affect the drive. I think it's like the more the gain stages. That's what I think you will just wouldn't need to let an amp do because an amp is the fucking it's got these five tubes in it, five valves in it, and it's a 5 grand bit of gear, and then you stick a 50 quid tube screamer in front of it, and it's like I don't know, it just seems counterintuitive when you can make the amp do its own thing.
And then I think we covered it last time really, but then then a photographer was asking favorite and worst part of being on Big Brother.
Uh, Favorite was I got really good. I was really good friends with Coolio at one point because he had a juggalo tattoo, and this was I went in twice in Big Brother. I went into like the best of, so he was in the best of thing, and he had a juggalo tattoo, and I was like whoop whoop to him, and then we really bonded over it. Me sort of I don't know how ironic his or I don't know. Anyway, then that was just really fun, and then I actually ended up going out for like to some weird parties with him in London. That was very strange. Worst part, they made me eat 100 liqueur chocolates to see if I would get drunk, and I threw up so much, and I was drunk. I was like, oh, I'm wasted, man. And then I did a breathalyzer. They gave me a breathalyzer, and I was literally zero point 0.0 on the breathalyzer. But I was
Was
like,
that a
thought I was
task
really
or
drunk.
something?
It was like a task, I think. Yeah. To be honest, I have such little memory of being in there that it's hard for me to even find those memories. But I sort of every now and again I have a sort of weird flashback. But as a sort of accessible memory, it's really like I think I've sort of blocked it out.
Then a few people asking about the Buzzcocks thing, but again, I think we covered that last time, that no regrets type of thing.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm like I can't even really remember even all the lore of that. I thought everyone was I thought it was like sort of regarded that I was being valiant now, but maybe I don't know. Whatever everyone decides is the right outcome for that is I'm perfectly happy for them to decide whatever makes them find peace with it.
I don't know, judging from comments, it feels like people these days are much more inclined to agree with you walking
Yeah.
off. But I don't know.
That also, but just entering in that whole world, the celebrity world and everything, it's just all silly, isn't it? It's just all bollocks. So like all of that, all of the fucking, even telly, and it's just all bollocks, really. So I just don't think I took any of it very seriously. I was just sort of like, mucking about, really. But so, if I did anything that was seemed like I didn't give a fuck, it's just because I just really didn't give a fuck.
No, yeah, I thought you made an interesting point about it being, a class issue as well, picking on someone of a lower class. I thought was a fair point.
Well, also he had someone writing all his lines. So he literally had someone making jokes to be mean about my wife who was sitting in the audience who I was like in the process of divorcing. So like, what the fuck? What else am I gonna do? Haha, yeah, she's stupid. Yeah, she's a chav and she's from Essex. Ha 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 ha. My wife. Of course I'm not gonna do that. And what am I gonna do? I'm gonna say, fuck you. You're being like you're picking on someone who's writing a book for a child. It's a children's book. She's little girls look up to her, like her. So I'm like, like you and all your like university educated professional joke writers are writing mean things about this like, working class girl who's managed to like enter your sort of world of you know anyway. I was acting like I'm like I don't give a fuck, and then I'm like but how fucking dare, but no, it honestly I like I do think it like fuck that whole thing, but like and I like to me it seems very obvious that I did the not just the right thing but like the only thing that I could have done. But also if someone's sitting at home writing a comment about how they would have done it differently, well, don't let me stop you.
Yeah, I think I saw you say you got on with her well these days. You have a good relationship with
Yeah,
Chantal.
she's great. She's very funny. She's good people.
Cool. And then just a few more questions off Twitter. Paul McDonald asking to re-upload his Preston's Ramones covers album somewhere.
Oh, I've got someone to send me that. I do have that again. Yeah, yeah. So for my birthday, I think it was like my 30th birthday, I just did the whole of, I think, Rocket to Russia. We just rented a studio, like a nice studio for a day, and we all just recorded it. Everyone swapped instruments and stuff, and it sounds really good. It's like it's great. So yeah, I will do that. I'll put it on the Instagram somewhere. Yeah,
Yes. Steve Parker says, does he remember the gig with Kaiser Chiefs at the Dark Arches under Leeds Station? Both bands were
yeah,
breaking around that time. Great gig.
yeah. I remember it very well. Leeds was always just like such an exciting place to be because we were because the Kaiser Chiefs the Kaiser Chiefs would support us around the time that we were sort of swapping like we were bigger and then suddenly they were like huge, and so we sort of obviously it's preferable to be the other way around, but it's amazing to just witness. I always knew they had something really special, and really wanted them to get as big as I felt like they deserved to be. And I feel like I witnessed it because we just spent a lot of time in Leeds, and I just was like, just felt that's when it really felt like an exciting time. But it's like, it's funny because it's the Kaiser Chiefs and the Ordinary Boys, but to me it felt like it was like, you know, being in New York in 1976. It just felt that significant.
Yeah, I think last time you said you had yeah, you're on good terms with Nick, like you'd talk about songwriting and stuff.
Yeah,
Nick
yeah, we
Hodgson.
done. Yeah, yeah. Actually, Nick wrote with Rat Boy a little bit, but he's just. I mean, he's talk about good people. He's just like such a positive influence on this earth. Definitely.
That is it. He's been on a couple of times. Um, Green Waveform, Evan, I think it is. Does he remember supporting Paul Weller in 2005, particularly at the Bournemouth International Centre? If so, he may remember me and my girlfriend being the only two people in a dreary crowd going mad during their set. We didn't want to see Weller, only bought tickets to see the Ordinary Boys.
Oh well, that tour is sort of what made me just do Big Brother, like definitely do Big Brother, because I was just a bit like, oh, I can't be bothered with this anymore. I think, yeah, it was a miserable tour for us, like, and that's no shade on anyone, but it just was like very evident that I don't know. I just felt like we were like it just made you feel so unexciting to be sort of playing. Yeah, if another band you could do that, right? But Ordinary Boys is such an energetic. We're such a sort of energy band live, and it just and you do sort of need that you need that feedback. And I remember just thinking, oh, I can't be bothered to do this anymore. Hadn't then we'd only really been a band for like maybe 2 years, if that. So I was a bit like, oh well, got a good run. Anyway, here we are. Here we are, 20 years later. So
Sound Vision Play. Were there any demos that you regret never recording for an album or single?
I kind of regret all of the B-sides for the first album not just being the second album. I've always thought that. We had some really good B-sides on the first album. But no, we were pretty much like if we wrote a song, we released it at the time with the band. Um, it wasn't like we would sort of sit. I mean, maybe we should have, but it's not like we sat around kind of you know writing 50 songs to make an album. We just sort of made the album and then recorded it.
Yeah, yeah. And if we're not mentioned it already, like, what is the vibe for new music? Is there a particular vibe that would be around for the new album, or not really?
Well, it is just it's sort of like scooping everything up and kind of neatening it up and like I think like it's just what I think like the quintessential Ordinary Boys album is, rather than these sort of it's sort of taken everything that we've done and just making it one thing.
Cool. Look forward to hearing it. We'll crack through the rest of the songs then. Band that I'm not really familiar with, American Nightmare.
Oh,
Quite
this
a
is so
bit
when
heavier than the
I
rest.
yeah, yeah. Well, we used to be a hardcore band, so it's like this is we hardcore was like our roots. But I remember going to when I first went to Philadelphia. I lived with Wes, the singer out of this band, and it was just such a it. I mean, that was before I sort of really got into hardcore. So I was like, I don't know, 15, maybe less, maybe younger, and it just was like from never having heard that music to suddenly going to these shows. I was just like, what the fuck is this? It's fucking brilliant. And like, I still listen to, I listen to a lot more like 80s hardcore now. But that I wasn't allowed to put any of that on the list. So that was it. Yeah. But this is like, this record was like very like, I learned all the words. Actually, I remember the first time I was ever in a magazine, ever, I was in Kerrang, pointing and singing to Wes. It was actually before I lived with him, so it was when I went to see him at the Underworld in the I don't know 2000 or something, and there was a picture of me right like my face right in the crowd with Wes, and I was like, I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, I'm famous. And anyway, then I went and ended up living with Wes, and then I was like, wow, this is fucking insane. Like, it's like staying at his house and hanging out with him, going to karaoke together, and like, and I thought that was so cool. And actually now he lives in LA. He's in the band called what the fuck is his band called? Can't remember, but he's in like a sort of like dark wave band. Cold Cave is what they're called. And he lives out there, owns like a bookshop and stuff. But yeah, it's just like a important record for me, I suppose.
So here it is. Here's American Nightmare with AM/PM. Then the next one, yeah, someone I hadn't heard of before, Jay Reatard. Why this particular
Oh,
song?
really?
Don't think so, no.
Oh, I love Joe Rita. So he was that was a really good documentary about him actually that I could not recommend more. It's like really sad. But you see him like making all the songs on his own and he sits down and just plays the drums like perfectly and then puts the bass on all in his house. It's like just amazing. And I always feel like I feel like his voice, he sounds a little bit like first Supergrass album. He, I don't know, it's just a fucking great record. It's just like he's just one of my favorite musicians. So and just was like just such a interesting guy.
Okay, well here he is with It Ain't Gonna Save Me.
Ain't gonna save me now. Oh, such a good song that.
Then the next one was just Stone Cold Banger, Jimmy Eat World. Kind of don't
I
need
know this was
introduction, I
like
guess, but
I was playing it in the car this morning, and my friend was like, "You like Jimmy Eat World?" But yeah, I was like big. I loved like Get Up Kids and Promise Ring and all the like '90s emo stuff. And then this record came out, and at first we were like, "Oh, it sounds digital. The production sounds so digital, so clean." Anyway, it's fucking changed everything. Changed the music. It changed pop music. There's record. Like Kelly Clarkson fucking sounds like this. Do you know what I mean? It's like so. It was such a. It was such a sort of smart way, just cleaning up that sort of emo stuff. It just is so powerful, and yeah, I absolutely loved it when it came out.
Oh, here it is. Here's Jimmy Eat World with Sweetness. Yeah, it's a performance on Letterman that they did. That's just it's one of the best ever on
Oh,
Letterman, I think.
really? I have to watch that.
It's quality, yeah. And then next one, yeah, one that I wasn't familiar with again, but really liked it. Uffy. What's the story with this one?
Well, Uffy, do you know what I should have put is actually Amanda Blank, who is like my friend over here, who also Diplo did her record as well, but like who because he did MIAs. But Uffy was like one of the Ed Banger records. She did that Pop the Glock song that was huge, but she never really like connected. But what she did was just pave the way for fucking everyone in all these like even like Lady Gaga and like just change just was so sort of influential without really getting her sort of getting her moment. And I just love this song. I think it's such a cool song. She's just very cool, and all of that French, it's like we just in Brighton, all of that like French house and French electro stuff at the time was like it was just even though it was sort of slightly peripheral to like what we were into, but still, if you went out, that this is what they would play, or this actually, or Fisher Spooner, which comes later, but that was just the music that was like around when I was like in Brighton, first sort of going out and whatever.
Cool. Here it is. Here's Uffy with Difficult. Yeah, Amanda Blank. I was wondering why I could place that name, but I just know her through. She's married to Matt Held, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to
yeah.
give her a musical listen.
She's great. Her album's brilliant. She used to live in Philadelphia.
Ah,
So
okay.
that's how I know her. Yeah,
And then yeah, I did cut it down to 10, to be honest, mate. If that's all
yeah,
right.
yeah. Of course.
So going to finish with Khalees Milkshake.
I just wanted to put a banger on. That's quite a good ending, actually. Obviously, it's just a fucking banger. That's or does anything more need to be said?
No, exactly. Yeah, let's play it. All right, nice one, mate. Well, let's look forward to the Peer Pressure single coming out. Is that on?
Yeah, thanks so much for doing that and sort of getting it in your right in the sort of release window and all that stuff.
Yeah, is it out on the 17th? Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
And friend of the pod, Dan Wilson's done the artwork. I think is that right?
Oh yeah. Have you interviewed him?
Yeah, he's one of the first people I had on. Yeah.
Oh, I love Dan. I couldn't, it's like because with Dan, it's like he's done so many things for us for free, but now we've got a label, so it was so good to be just like able to actually like, I mean, it's fucking indie label probably paid him nothing, but like it's so good to just be like doing it properly, and I just think he's such a. I mean, if whoever's listening to this doesn't follow him on Instagram yet, he's just such a treat on Instagram. He just will do like he does so much stuff just for the fun of it. Like he'll just do like he just did like a good fuck Trump one with like today with like a bomb coming out his head. But yeah, he's brilliant.
And what's the gist of the song, really? Uh,
Oh, it's just a sort of a silly drinking song, really. I'm just like I'm not doing it. This is the thing is like actually the lyrical concept, like the lyrical content of the album, because it's like, well, what is the ordinary? What does over the counter culture? What would we sing about in 2026? And it is like the manosphere, and it is fucking taxing billionaires and all this stuff. But I think I want the first things back to not be too stressful for people. So it's just a sort of it's just kind of like about blaming everyone else for your own bad decisions, I think. Somehow you like you can, it's on some of the posts on Instagram. You can hear like bits of it somehow. I don't know how we did that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's gonna come out with my friend's doing a video for it as well. So that's hopefully all that stuff will be out pretty soon.
Okay, yes, mate. Good finishing point.
Yeah,
But
amazing.
cheers for that. Yeah, I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing you at
yeah,
some point.
amazing. Thanks so much. And I'll
Cheers, mate.
see, yes, speak to you soon. Cheers,
Catch you
bye.
soon. Yes.